Ah, Christmas time. That one time of year where it's acceptable to drink eggnog, carolers are out and about spreading that holiday cheer, and we offer blood sacrifices to our Lord and Master, Mariah Carey. But for some of us weirdos, the holidays are for watching horror movies, and luckily, we have quite a few options if we want to keep that holiday spirit. Krampus, Gremlins, Silent Night, Deadly Night, the list goes on. I know I had posted about not wanting to do any more videos until the new year for personal reasons, but whilst browsing for some holiday-themed horror movies to watch, I stumbled upon a movie that I just had to get on my YouTube soapbox and run my mouth about it. Normally, I try and steer away from reviewing movies that I don't like, since I'd much rather use my time talking about cinematic experiences that have had a positive effect on me. But sometimes, you stumble upon something so bad, so heinous, so insulting to your intelligence, that you can't help but talk about it. I mean, I did review that new Jeepers Creepers movie after all. After the release and overwhelming success of the Platinum Dunes Texas Chainsaw remake, the horror market was completely saturated with modern retellings and remakes of horror classics. And of course, it wouldn't be long until we would receive a remake of the 1974 classic, Black Christmas. I adore the original Black Christmas because of its down-to-earth cast of characters. The stylization of the cinematography greatly lends itself to building a sense of dread and suspense from start to finish, and of course, the killer in this whole ordeal, Billy. All of these put together equal a horror movie that was, without a doubt, ahead of its time, and would go on to influence another legendary film that decade, John Carpenter's Halloween. If you're a horror fan that knows even the slightest about this film, you know how important it is to the slasher subgenre and why remaking it would be a difficult task to nail. Presented as Black Xmas in promotional material because self-awareness apparently didn't exist back when they were making this movie, this remake has none of the redeeming qualities or charm that its predecessor had. Ultimately, it felt like the same trashy gore fest that would be indicative of the genre for at least the next few years. Before we dive into this holy abomination of a movie, I will be talking about spoilers for not only the remake, but for the original as well. So if you haven't seen either one, please pause this video and go watch them both if you care about being spoiled. With that out of the way, let's get into the holiday spirit by looking at what I would consider the worst horror remake of all time, 2006's Black Christmas. I know I've talked about this before in previous videos on this channel, but horror remakes are always a divisive topic within the greater horror fandom, and Black Xmas is easily one of the best examples of why this is the case. Gone are the likable and endearing cast of characters from the original, and what we get instead are vapid and frankly unpleasant meatbags just waiting to be murdered, and I blame it on that particular time period within the genre. The 2000s were ripe with crass and sardonic character writing as a way to get us excited to see these nothing burgers get butchered, and more often than not, it ends up detracting from the movie's quality. The writing in this 90-minute shitshow is completely structured around that 2000s brand cynicism, and hot damn does it drag this movie down into the pits of hell. Bob Clark, the director of the original Canadian horror powerhouse, made sure to give us a cast of characters that, in his words, were astute and weren't just caricatures of young adults. The 2006 version takes the complete opposite approach by tossing out any sort of nuance and essentially making us sit through a worse, albeit gorier version of Mean Girls. Listen, I don't expect elite levels of character writing with every movie I watch, but could the writers at least give me a final product that makes it seem like they tried even a little bit? Please? Because even disregarding the horrible character logic in-universe that leads to most of these characters' deaths, there's not a single shred of a good personal moment for any of these sorority sisters. In the original, the events are set into motion rather quickly, but we're still given so many instances of getting to see what these characters are like. Familiarity is the key to making the cast feel real, and is the foundation of what makes their deaths so tragic, and why it had, and still has to this very day, such a profound effect on audiences. But while looking at the remake, while the deaths are played straight and never feels like we're supposed to be enjoying their demise, they still feel hollow at the end of the day because of poor writing. Much like many of its remake contemporaries, Xmas 06 seeks to get your attention with the tried and true method of putting all of its creativity points into its death scenes. Now that isn't to say that movies that intentionally go balls to the wall with kills and gore are bad or of lesser quality, because I'm obviously a huge fan of the Friday the 13th franchise. But without any of the other redeeming qualities, this movie just feels like a chore to get through. Although, to be frank, even in the kills department, this movie is extremely bland, and out of all the major horror remakes that I've personally seen, the only other one with kills more unseasoned than this is the Nightmare on Elm Street remake from 2010. Pretty much every kill is centered around being as violent and gory as possible, but there's no creativity within them to make them all not just straight up blend together in your head. They're all pretty much a variation of the typical slasher fare with various stabbings, slashings, and there's even a few eye gouges and neck snaps in there, but there's no substance to it. Like, can any of you watch this movie and tell me any of its death scenes come anywhere close to Mrs. Mack's death in the original? That intense build-up as she looks around the attic only to find Claire's long dead body before she is ruthlessly killed with a crane hook sends chills down my spine to this very day. Seeing her body ascending into Billy's maw of darkness only for the others to never be the wiser is haunting. Then you compare it to Mrs. Mack's death in the remake and, well, you see what I mean. Not to mention that I hate all of the eye gore in this movie. I just don't understand this movie's obsession with it. Feels like the movie is begging you to take it seriously sometimes, and it's so goddamn off-putting. The last thing I'd like to discuss is, of course, Billy, because you can't talk about either film without rightfully discussing him as well. Much like the rest of Xmas 06, the nuance of the original is lost with the addition of unnecessary depravity and violence. In the remake, Billy is treated as a local legend who butchered his horribly abusive family except his sister, who, of course, got her eye ripped out by her brother, who is also her father. God, this movie is fucked up for the worst possible reasons, man. With these murderous events taking place in the very house that our sorority sisters are currently living at, it's no shocker that they're getting the same type of calls as they did in the original. The movie tries to throw us off with Billy being locked in a mental institution while there are still hot co-eds getting picked off one by one as a way to make us guess who the killer is. Inevitably though, Billy breaks out of his confinements and it's revealed that it's been his sister-daughter Agnes that's been killing everyone while her father-brother has been locked away. All these egregious leaps into immoral degeneracy in an attempt to cash in on surface-level shock factor honestly feels insulting when I think of just how important the original film was for its time. Billy's enigmatic presence was what made him so scary in the first place. The fact that we never truly see his face, learn his motives, or are given a backstory gives that air of mystery that makes him so much scarier than if you just made him like any other crazed slasher movie lunatic. Less is more, if you will. I don't think giving him a backstory was necessarily a bad thing. Showing a character's motivations and histories can certainly be a great tool to let us get a deeper understanding of them, but god damn is it not written that way at all here. It's not written in a manner that shows us how this has affected Billy in any way outside of just turning him into a cartoonishly deranged murderer, and with how serious abuse is, it just comes off as pretty insensitive, to be honest. As far as the inclusion of Agnes goes, I guess having two killers near the climax makes for a neat twist, but the way she just repeats that same line about family over and over makes me think that the "evil dies tonight" chant wasn't so bad in comparison. All in all, this remake feels like someone took one of the later Wrong Turn movies and decided to try and give it a little bit of that Christmas cheer, and keyword try. Stop me if you've heard this one before, but this is definitely one of those unnecessary remakes that has only aged like milk the more time has gone by. If I had to go out on a limb and try and deliver a hot take regarding this movie, it would be that this is without a doubt the worst horror remake that I've had the displeasure of watching. Even as a standalone film, and disregarding any comparisons to its predecessor, this movie is just a heaping helping of dog shit from start to finish. Do you know how bad your movie has to be to make the inclusion of Mary Elizabeth Winstead not make me like your movie at least a little bit? This movie was a direct assault on my senses, and if I could live the rest of my life without having to endure the mental duress of having to sit through this again, it would be too damn soon. And those, my friends, are my thoughts on the 2006 Black Christmas remake. If you like this movie, I'd love to hear your thoughts below on why you like it, because even if I don't care for this movie at all, I still find it fascinating to learn about what draws people to their favorite horror films. Sincerely thank you to everyone who views this video. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday and get everything you'd hoped for. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel to keep up with the content I'm planning on releasing in 2023. I have so much planned, and I cannot wait to get it all out to you guys. Until next time though, everybody, be kind to one another, and keep watching horror. Bye guys.